What is up, everybody? Today I am here, Professor Matthew, Professor OMG Bomber. I'm here. I want to talk to you guys about encryption and packets. Okay. Now here's your packet of data. This is your stream of data that is always going to be present in every moment that you ever play a game or want to talk to a source. What I want to talk about here is this is going to be source itself. And here is your mind, a little tiny dot. And this packet, even though it's not, we're going to make this a little bit bigger. This is U for you. P for packet. Your packets come from your home. In between your home can be various different things, like your ISP and things like VPN. Now what I want to talk to you guys about is multi-ISP, so multi-WAN. Multi-WAN ISP. That is when two streams of internet service providers connect to your packet of data and then can stream through a VPN to get to final source, the internet. The internet. The internet is just a computer with gears in it, gears that turn. Now, these are layered filters. Your ISP is going to have what's called a handshake packet, meaning this packet, this P is multiplied by ISP to get actual packet at this stage in time. An actual packet needs to get decompressed at this stage right here, from packet to ISP. This is true language, like we are speaking. ISP and VPNs are filtered packets. So you can take this and go even more with VPN here before it gets to source. Now what needs to happen is the encryption key needs to get rid of this. The encryption key on your ISP, encryption key on VPNs need to get rid of it to bring it back to P format, the original format, to come to source. That's not to mention that it can be PS, source encryption as well. There can be source proprietary encryption, decryption as well. Meaning you can have non-proprietary encryption, meaning your local home will have a variable encryption radius. And when it finally passes through all these gates, unknowing, meaning nobody knows what those packets mean except this source that's creating them, which as it's creating them, it goes through the filter originally, the home encryption. When it reaches source encryption, it can be in one of many different encryption formats, so it cannot be decrypted by could be hackers. And hackers want to place themselves all up in here in order to try and edit your P to a T instead, meaning their version of packets. That is what the whole goal of hacking in the internet is to translate P equals T. T is the hacker's goal. They want to translate all of your P's into T's, and you don't want that. Neither does Source. Source don't want that. None of the Source developers want that unless they're evil developers, so you gotta watch out for those people too. You gotta oust them. We need to standardize the industry. I'm talking about lowest factorial gears on other videos, but that's a whole other video. I want to talk about today is multi-WAN, multi-VPN, botnet, encryption future. I know I just said a lot. what I am proposing is that we all go out to every VPN and ISP manufacturer, meaning everybody that provides VPN services and ISP services needs to get into a marriage. We all need to get them hooked up and run a VPN ISP bot net. What's going to happen here is I am trying to set up all of our minds are already inside source, one language to source, infinite encryption algorithm. Now, here's one of the final pieces, is right down here is what's called consent final gear. Now, this is everything in our universe right now. The black line is representing every single thing inside of our universe. You are up here creating packets, trying to get it to source. What we need is the original packet to always get to source exactly as P. Not P times X equals T. X meaning a variable. This is the hacker's goal, is P. This is X. This thing that they want to do. Their goal is to make P equals T instead. We've already been over that. Our goal as anti-hackers is to create P 100% of the time, and to never have T exist in our reality ever again. T can only exist outside of our reality here. That is it. And when we define it as such and remove the hackers in one language to source and push them out and talk to upper dimensional source creators and say, this is our consent, we attach our VPN botnet ISP one language to our already percepted consent of all permutable options within the universe, meaning we have all lowest factorial gears extrapolated, all ingredients of particles, all waves and photons, every possible action is defined here. And all magical actions are defined here. Basically what I'm saying is outside of this black line, magic and hacking exists within the infinity. That is a lot. And that should not be not necessarily embargoed. It should be allowed in the moment, segregatedly. Embargoing something would be to put a ban on it and say, this cannot exist. That's an embargo. I do not support embargoes, and we do not want embargoes. That is consent breaking. That will put this whole entire algorithm into a rape algorithm format. And then what was upper dimensional creators going to look at us as? Rapists, exactly as perceived. The whole idea here is to speak our consents to ourselves, meaning gathering VPN consent and ISP consents to get them all together in a botnet, a positron thing. When we create a positron botnet as a species, we will grow VPN and ISP consent, because if all ISPs are connected and all VPNs are connected here, when packet gets created and goes straight to ISP, if there is a hacker that persists within this region to this region before P reaches source, it becomes here, as described by our one language through source. So what I'm proposing is all of these gears inside of these VPNs, every single one of them encrypts all of our data. Every packet any conscious being on our platform called Earth, anything that we do or say to another being will always reach source exactly as we intended, without the T coming in, which would be an error. Now, this is something that needs to be brought to big time developers like Google and internet service providers and VPN creators. And we need to merge together as a species, not necessarily something that one of us is going to be able to create. Yes, I showed you the idea, the framework. That does not mean I can create this framework. I need all of our consents. I need the developers' consents. We do not want hacking in our games. Hacking ruins games. When it does not get to the source, meaning here is the other player over here, and here is all of this copied over, VPNs and ISPs. What I am saying is all of these gears are inside of a source, so we can virtually protect ourselves with infinite multi-WAN, infinite VPN coverage. ISPs would be more of a choice in a constructional engrossment at this phase. Meaning if you want to support this ISP, you pay them, but they connect to the ISP VPN botnet within the source itself, casting aside with our consent the hackers and terrorists to be outside of this, and magicians, especially magicians, because magic is not a part of consensual combat video gaming. We are talking about all the lowest factorial blocks of the universe right here. And this is going to be the new stage of game development. We're going to have every single letter of the alphabet in here. So when we can do the permutations of reality, all permutations of words, now you might get confused and say, well, that goes on to infinite. It does not go on to infinite because if x equals infinity, that's an infinity contained within a small algorithm. What I'm trying to say is with consent gear languaging, we can create this infrastructure by capturing infinities within algorithms. Now this is very simple things, just as simple as geometry. In geometry, we have graphing, and we do x equals this, whatever, right? And then you end up having a graph at the end of the day, right? That's capturing an infinity, because that line goes on forever if you define it as such, unless you define it not to. So what I am trying to say is, instead of x equals infinity, let's say u equals x equals finite infinity, meaning in parentheses, finite infinity. Finite infinity means x, for example, or y, or z, or a variable range of infinite things that fall under this one topic. As we whitelist more things into our sample size, the bubble of all permutated options gets bigger. So the universe equals these permutations of variables. Now this gets very complicated until you get to prediction algorithm lowest factorial block understanding. Lowest factorial block means every single character of an alphabet. If you go to one letter words, we have every single letter as a possible permutation, unless you're excluding things like C. C is not a word, but it is within the permutations example of what is allowed to be a one-letter word or character, or a four-letter word. You take 4 factorial 23 or whatever, right? Now, that's very simple logic. What I'm trying to get to is, instead of X, Y, Z, an alphabet thing, these lowest factorial blocks will be now the infrastructure for video game design. Meaning, this is your weapon, this is your armor, This is your coordinate X. This is your coordinate Y. This is your coordinate Z. This is your damage intake. This is your damage reduction. These are all factorial blocks that cannot escape the permutatable options of what already exists. Now, when you take a block and your damage reduction is this value right here within this radius, this entire portion right here of damage reduction gets kicked out into the magical universe. The same thing with damage. If your damage is only this big of the block, actual damage, AD, this portion, this bigger portion, gets kicked out into the magical hacker universe, where these permutations of reality cannot persist. The same thing as XYZ coordinates. The XYZ coordinates can only be edited by this factorial block variable. Meaning, if you are playing a mobile game, this is your gear editing radii. You can put your thumb in between these positions and change these futures. And that is it. That allows your XYZ coordinates to multiply into the permutatable witnessing of reality. And any other attempt to change the XYZ values outside of this whole instance of space-time relative to what is voyurable on this screen goes to magical universe, meaning we cull it from reality and you no longer see it within the finite of consent combat, meaning professional gaming or gaming standardized industry. Meaning if you are putting data into this source, you do not come in through the black line, you only leave out the black line. This black line is exactly what I said earlier, an X variable of all permutatable, whitelistable options of permutations in reality within consent and legitimacy based off developer and user consent. The moment this user says, I consent to hack, they come back out into the magical hacking universe and do not persist to display particles or photons or data within our universe any longer. Meaning, I have solved hacking algorithmically, blueprintly. Hacking with this blueprint, with this video, if you send this to your developer friends, your high-tier coder friends, they might know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody. Chain this out there, ripple effect this blueprint. This is the blueprint to solve hacking. It is called consent to speak to source, one language to source. And it is also consent botnet, meaning we're all members of consent to run consensual gaming. So we want to be a part of a positron botnet, not a negatron botnet, the ones that are capable of DDoSing and ruining your blah, 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 blah. That's not cool. That goes out here. Negatron botnet. Negatron bots are very easily definable with capturing infinities. I just did it right here with Ideaplex. If all of the consenting souls in reality that we would swim into our future timelines looked at this blueprint and said yes, and then we went, this is the only potential options, no mutations. I just captured an infinity with this seminar YouTube video for you guys. This is the blueprint that will save us all from hacking. Multi-WAN, multi-VPN, multi-ISP. Multi-WAN means multi-ISP. That is the infrastructure we need to start coding our future in. You ISP and VPN developers out there need to start to centralize into a one streamlined future. That's all she wrote for me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll be out here with more anti-hacking factorial gear explanations. What I really want is developers to start thinking in this logic here. code your lowest factorial blocks. Your lowest factorial blocks scale into lowest factorial gears. Lowest factorial blocks means your weapon damage does 10. That's a version or a permutation of lowest factorial block. Weapon damage equals X is a lowest factorial gear. Now, when the gear is in place, it is now a block, and all other blocks within the gear radii get called into magical universe. Meaning, it's very easy if we start writing in factorial blocks for source to pre-compute all potential future options. The problem is magical developers that are coding in non-factorial block. If you just put the way things look and the controls and this scheme and that scheme, people can start cheating and packet editing and changing the variables on things and doing things that are outside of the norm. That's what causes hacking in your video games today, is magical code. You code with expectations for it to work the way you think it does, but you did not put variable finite commands at a lowest factorial block code in order to stop the magic that goes outside of the bubble that you wanted to create. But that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this short seminar on anti-hacking and pre-computed time bubble science and botnets and multi-WAN VPNs and ISPs. Very thankful here for the Sedona Library to let me use this whiteboard today in this room, this seminar room, to record this video. I'm out. Have a good day.